Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Asaf Darash. He is the founder of Regpack and an expert in automation and operational efficiency. He helps organizations replace manual processes with smarter systems so they can scale without adding more stress or administrative work. So we will be talking about his philosophy, automate the common case, protect the human touch, and much more. Welcome to the show, Asaf.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Asaf. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of companies, a lot of leaders across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about admin work, automation, how to do it the correct way, the your way. So that we'll discuss and much more. But before that, let's discuss a bit more about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure. So I founded Regpack in 2010 after I finished my postdoc at Berkeley and my PhD. I did a PhD that specialized in computer languages and computer systems. My thesis was around how can you create computerized systems that don't have any constants in them. And basically, Regpack is an implementation of that theoretical work that I did. Connected to computers. And that allows basically for Regpack to be what is called a meta programming system. You can create any type of workflow. The best way to think about it for people that are not technical is that Regpack is a Lego box. You can build a castle, you can build a spaceship, you can build a car, you can decide what you're building with it. It automates the processes, it automates the flow, and we can talk about it right in a few seconds. One of the things that we found that is most important is to allow implementation of the policy through automation, but at the same time to allow administrators and humans to override that and make human decisions when required.
Right, right. So for a common person, as well as someone who is running a small business or any business, how should they understand what you are trying to say with what you are saying, with what you are doing?
So think of it like this. Every business has their own processes, has their own way of doing things. A lot of times when you implement software into your business, what happens is they tell you, this is how you need to do it. You need to do it in a specific way. This is how the software works. And basically what they're creating a situation where a lot of businesses that are using the software become very similar in their onboarding process and how they take care of clients, etc. Right? Now, there are industries that this works well. We work mainly in the service educational business, and it doesn't work that well in that specific type of vertical, since people want to create a very unique and special experience for their students, for their parents, for their classes, etc. Right? And then this is where Regpack comes in as something very unique, where it allows people to create in the system their own processes. They decide how the process they work. They decide on the workflow. They decide what are the eligibility requirements. They decide how things flow, how things work. And think of it like this. A best way to think about it is like a school. Okay, so a school needs to register the students to the school and needs to make sure that they're selecting the courses that they're eligible for, right? So you go in, you give the basic information, and then based on the basic information, the system will make sure that the student only sees the classes that they're eligible for. It does that automatically. The first thing that does, it lowers the level of anxiety for the user, and more importantly, for the administrators, what happens, they don't have people registering for the wrong classes, right? They don't have people putting themselves in classes that they shouldn't be in. Then the system allows them to make payments and create auto bill plans or installments, and everything flows. Now, on the administrative side, what happens is that the administrator can set all this up without a programmer ever touching the system. They do everything on their own. They set up the triggers, they set up the rules, they set up the mechanisms on their own. And then once they do that, the system basically implements the policies that they have put in place. That's like the general high level ability that the system does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me understand it something basic, for my audience is about the admin work itself.
Okay.
Admin work, automation. So, what is admin work in today's time? Even, some people will say with the coming of AI automation, even CEO's work is also admin work in one sense or the other. How do
No,
I define admin work for my organization or for any other organization?
I'll define admin work for service-based educational organizations because that's what I work with, and I don't want to speak on something that I don't know, right? So administrative work, a lot of times for these organizations, is making sure that they have the information that they need, that the people are in the courses that they're eligible for, that they're assigned to the teachers or the counselors that they need to be on, that quota settings are set, that communication is automated, and that people understand exactly what they need to bring, when they need to come. Everything is synced to their calendar. Everything is synced automatically to their WhatsApp, to their chat, etc. And then the administrative work is making sure that the organization, the school, the course management, and the teachers just focus on actually giving the service and not around the service. A lot of times what happens is that the administrative part of giving the service becomes so central that everybody feels sort of like, why is there so much bureaucracy? Why is this so annoying? Why is this, I just want to learn, like, let's say you have a course for Python, right? The programmers come and they just want to learn. Or let's say a lot of courses that we're doing now is for AI programming, right? I just want to come and I want to learn how to use it. I want to learn the skills that I need in order to create the things that I want. I don't want to deal with administrative tasks. I don't want to deal with payments. I don't want to deal with giving you my credentials, with giving you my like, for example, the system automatically syncs with various systems that automatically give the people's grades and so forth. So the student doesn't need to do all that. They go in, they link everything in. They say, I want to go to these courses. They decide on an installment plan. They pay. That's it. Then the system automatically sends them the communication, makes sure that reminds them before the course starts, sends them the curriculum, sends them the material. Everything happens, and then the instructor or the teacher can focus on actually teaching, and the administrative staff can actually focus on the end cases, on special situations. Let's say there's a very talented programmer that doesn't have good credentials, right? They didn't learn the regular way. They didn't go to the university and so forth. But they can, like, we have organizations that have a special test that they can pass. And once they pass that test, they can actually go into the master classes, right? So those are the end cases that they want to take care of, that even though they're not eligible for these courses, they will override it and they will allow them to go in, etc. So that's the administrative work. I think with AI and with automation, the administrative work is more human connection and the ability to understand the end cases, the unique situations, rather than just the regular flow. And what you brought up, like you said, like one of the things that we focus on when we're building is we talk about the common case. We tell people, okay, let's find what happens 80%, 90% of the times. We want to automate that. We don't want to automate everything. We want to automate the common case. So the people that are just coming in and that are regular in a sense, that they're your exact ICP, they're your exact client, they will just flow through the system like that. And they won't feel any administrative burden, and you won't feel any administrative burden. And then what happens is the organization becomes much better at taking care of the end cases, at the people that need special treatment, at the people that have a special request, right? And they can do that with a lot less staff on one hand, but they're doing it much, much better. So it's sort of like a win-win situation for the clients, for the administrators, and for the actual academic cycles.
Absolutely, Asaf. So let me understand it this way. Who is your ideal client? In which part of the world is this ideal client staying?
We
and you
may,
are reaching out.
yeah, sure. We mainly serve the US, Canada, Australia, the UK. I would say English-speaking countries mainly. I would say like something like maybe 70% of our clients are in the US, then another 10 or 15% are in Canada, and the rest are worldwide. We have actually people use it in European countries as well, because the system does support multilingual. Um, so so that's like in the terms of like who uses the system. Mainly in terms of the organizations, it spans from adult education to universities to camps to courses to events, a lot of educational tourism. We actually have started to work a lot with SaaS companies, where SaaS companies automate their billing and their onboarding process through us. So all of that, those are the type of clients. Like I would say that right now about 10% of our clients is SaaS. And now with the explosion of AI, with so many new SaaS companies coming out, it's a really good way for founders to get up and running very quickly on the onboarding process. One of the problems in SaaS is that you build this amazing product, right? And now nobody wants to take care of the onboarding process, getting the information, taking the payments, automating the subscriptions. Nobody wants to do that, right? Because you don't want to spend programming or time on that resources, right? So Regpack is really good for that. It's a plug and play. They put one line of code in the back end, one line of code in the front end, and then the system just takes care of everything for them. So that's another vertical that we're really strong at now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you talk about, that hiring is not the answer, but automation is. And at the same time, you also talk about the keeping the human touch. How do you calibrate all these things? And why not hiring automation? And without hiring, how do you keep the human touch with automation?
A lot of times people ask me exactly that question because it sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like they're one against the other, right? But it's not. The biggest ability of your or the biggest resources that your employees have is the knowledge that they have about your clients, the knowledge that they have about your type of clients, the issues that they have, and so forth. Their abilities are not in, clicking a button or sending an email or looking at a form, making sure it's filled out. That a computer can do much better than them, much faster than them, and much more accurate than them. But when the human touch comes into play, the computer is terrible at that, right? It's very annoying even. So the idea is that you keep the staff that you have, introduce automation, and basically what you're creating is, let's say you had 3 administrators beforehand, and you introduce automation, you basically hired 2 new people. Because what happened is 2 new people, these two people don't need to do the administrative staff work anymore, and they can actually create that human touch, create that human connection with your clients, your students, your SaaS companies that are working with you, and once they or the support that the people need, and once they are able to do that, you become a much better company without spending more money, but actually making more money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when companies like yours are still exist, are growing, then why are so many growing organizations, they are getting stuck in manual work, even when tools like this and better tools, all they exist? Why is this that happening? Are these organizations not aware of all these things, or they are happy with what they are? Because things are changing very fast, and I'm sure organizations are also dynamic enough to understand the dynamicity of the environment that they are operating in.
I would say that there are a few reasons that happens, and I would split it to large organizations and smaller organizations. In large organizations, the biggest problem that they have is the speed in which they reach decisions. Okay, the administrative staff could bring up something, and then it would go up to management, and then the management would bring up to the board, and then the board would say, "But we don't want to change this or that," and then it could take we see this. Like, we talk to organizations a year later or a year and a half later, the deal is closed, which is sometimes like, what did you do for 18 months? Like, why did it take you 18 months to decide on something that could have helped you right away? And once they implement it, they're like, wow, this is amazing, right? So that's the big organizations, universities, organizations that have more than 200 employees, etc. Right? The smaller organizations, there are two things that hold them back. One is fear. They're very afraid to implement something that might change the way that they work, right? And I would split the fear into two. You have the fear of the administrative staff themselves, fearing that they might be replaced and fired because of that. Okay, and then you have the other part where it's fear that the human connection, exactly what you brought up, the human connection will deteriorate, right? And it is a process to explain to them that actually the human connection will get better because of automation, because it is counterintuitive for people, right? I would compare it in a very loose way to moving from riding a horse to driving a car. In the beginning, when cars came out, everybody was like, oh, no, I want the horse, I want the connection, I want this. And today it looks ridiculous to us, right? It's like, what? Everybody drives a car, right? So it's the same thing. It's just like, look, I've been working with computers for, I don't know, like 40 years from the very early age. And everything has happened really, really quickly. Okay. You can say that in the last 30, 35 years, the changes are amazing. Like they're immense. And in the next 5 years, the changes will be even bigger because of AI, right? There's never been a time in history that people needed to adapt so quickly to change. I was just on a trip with my girlfriend to Tuscany in Italy, and it was beautiful there, right? But you saw projects that took 100 years to build or 100 years to create something, right? And that was regular. Like for people, it was okay for nothing to change for 100 years. And within 35 years of us living, changes, like think 35 years ago, you used to have a home phone that you would pick up and you would dial like this, right? And that just completely disappeared from existence. So a lot of these things are lack of knowledge, fear, and the ability to embrace change. Embracing change is not easy because it demands people to be flexible, and that's not always something that they want to do, and that's fine.
Absolutely. But the problem still remains. How do they decide what remains, what goes into automation and what remains human?
How
do you address that?
That is actually very simple in a way, because we have a methodology that is connected to the common case. Okay, we actually look at their data, look at the information, see the normal flow that things happen, and then tell them, okay, this is your common case. Now, again, because the system has conditional logic in it and has AI embedded into the system, I worked many years in the MIT, in the AI lab in MIT. So we've embedded AI way before it exists, like how it's happening now. And the system can basically creates a unique path for each user. Right, so the common case is not like one path. It's like you can think of it as a zone of paths, or a set of paths that people walk through. Right, so we identify the common case, we automate that common case, which normally is between 80 to 90% of the users that people have. So it's, in that sense, it's very easy to know what to automate and what not to automate. I'll give an example. So let's say organization comes to us and says, we give courses to companies for their employees, right? And we're like, okay, great. So how, a basic questions. How many times do companies send more than one user to your courses? And they're like, oh, that's like nearly all of our clients. By definition, that creates a system where the data structure is a family structure, right? Where you have the company and multiple employees. Now, if they would, and obviously that type of structure in terms of like the process is a little more complex, right? Because you have the company information and then you're creating every employee information. But if they now, If it would be the other way around, be like, oh no, most of them are like they send one employee, which then gives that information, like populates that information in the company. But they say, okay, but sometimes we have companies that send 2 of the employees. And we ask them, okay, what is sometimes? And then we take their data and we say, okay, you've given 10,000 students courses in the last 2 years. We can see that from the same company, you have 100 students. That means it's 0.1%. There's no reason to create complexity for the other 99% of the people because of that 0.1%. Now, a lot of times the mistake is I want to automate that 0.1% because that's what makes my life hard as an administrator, right? That's where I need to work a lot and so forth. But that's the mistake. You want to automate the common case, and then the complex situations you take care of as a human and don't let the system complicate things for everybody else. So actually finding what to automate and what not to automate is the easy part. The harder part is actually deciding how rigid the automation would be. How much of your policies do you want to implement into the automation, and how much flexibility do you want to give the users? That's a human decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the fears could be, about the culture, that this automation will not just come, change the systems, but the culture of the organization itself, which is known for externally also by the customers, and also internally also within different stakeholders, including, potential employees and everyone else. How do you take care of that part, organizational culture?
First of all, I agree. It will change the organizational culture by definition, okay? But what it will do, it will highlight the good parts of the culture and will eliminate the, repetitive or problematic parts of the culture, right? Because you're automating a lot of the process, communication between departments or transfer of information between departments, that just becomes disappears. Like the problem disappears, right? Whereas an organization that has a strong culture of client support and helping the clients get the best success out of the product that they're giving, those organizations actually flourish when they create automation, because you're taking away sort of the parts of the culture that used to create friction, because you're automating them. You're removing the human part of from sections that there is no need for human interaction. So you're eliminating the friction, and you're creating more collaborative work within the company, and obviously that would work outside. Now, if the culture of the company is already problematic, it will also intensify those problems, right? So it's sort of like, if you're good, you're going to get better, and if you're bad, you're going to get worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is so much to learn about all this from you, Asaf, and I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of organizations, a lot of leaders would want to connect with you. Also, know more about Regpack, be your client. What's the best way for them to do so?
Best way is through the website, www.regpacks.com. If not through the website, then through LinkedIn. We have a really nice Instagram account. It's actually really funny. One of the things that we pride ourselves with is the concept of being less busy, right? The idea of Regpack is to allow you to be less busy, and then you can be more focused on your clients, and in a way also more focused on yourself, on connecting to. I really believe in people connecting to themselves in order to give the best service to other people, right? To be of service to someone, you need to be connected to yourself. So one of the motto of Regpack is be less busy. So in Instagram, it's really cute. We have a bear mascot, and we show like all kinds of things of what he does with his time when he's less busy. It's really funny. So I'd say LinkedIn, Instagram, the website. Those are the best ways, I guess.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.